Howdy, guys, and welcome to Cliff Notes, and welcome to night number 81 of the overnight feed recaps for Big Brother season 27. A good Saturday morning to y'all. All right, I wasn't sure if we were going to get the feeds back or not. We did, so I'm happy to be able to give you some updates on the final or second part of the HOH. I think we'll probably have them through today, tonight. So I should be able to give you one more update tomorrow morning. But we got to talk about what happened yesterday. So, as a reminder, Morgan had won the first part of the final HOH. Yesterday, we had the second part of the final HOH, and this comp was held strictly between Ashley and Vince. Morgan already punched her ticket to the final round. This is to decide which of the other two gets to compete against Morgan at the very end between Vince and Ashley, and the winner of round 2 of the final HOH is Ashley. Yes, Ashley won way back in week number 1 to save herself when she was on the block. She now has her second comp win, pretty important comp win. She's won and yet one more as well, but Ashley has won round 2 of the HOH competition, which means Ashley and Morgan are going to be facing off to decide who wins the final part of it, who guarantees their spot in front of the jury, and who gets to decide who to drag along into the other final 2 chair as well. It's going to be a very important competition. The other thing that this means, the only way that Vince makes it to the final 2 is if he gets drugged there by one of these 2 ladies. I think that's a bad sign for Vince. I really saw Vince have a hard time winning this, but his only path to victory, in my opinion, was to win and drag Morgan or Ashley to the end. The fact that he won't be able to do that, I think, is Keanu predicted. At this point in time, Vince is fighting for his second place position, and that's not guaranteed either, as we're going to talk about. So we're going to have Morgan and Ashley competing to see who has final control as they move to the final 2 chairs. All right, now here's the scenarios I thought about. And these are all just my opinions and they could change. But right now, I think if Morgan wins this final round of the HOH, she wins at that point against anyone in a jury vote. It doesn't really matter whether she drags Ashley or Vince to the end with her. I think she beats either one of them. I think she realizes that, even though she had some down moments and seems a little nervous that wouldn't be the case. You're talking $750,000. Of course, you're going to worry about everything, every possible scenario. But I think that she's going to realize that she probably has a decent chance against either one of them. And as a result, I think just out of loyalty and everything else, she may end up taking Vince. Now, we had a lot of conversations that suggest that she won't. So I take this with a grain of salt. I just think at the end, as much time as they've spent together, Vince will be able to play up her game enough that she will decide, and I think she'll take Vince to the end. I could be wrong. I'll find out in 24 hours. But I think she would take Vince and win the thing. If Ashley wins the final round of the HOH competition, I think it's almost certain that she does not take Morgan, that she takes Vince as well. And I think at that point, Ashley dragging him to the end, knowing that she's an attorney, I think her conversations, her speech will probably be a little bit better. Expecting that we'll have some bitter juror votes, things like that. I think at that point in time that Ashley beats Vince. So kind of a 2-horse race at this point in time. Morgan the inside track, but Ashley could win this thing as well. It's going to be fun. Final day or so watching this thing. All right, so we don't know a lot about the second HOH competition just yet. Sounds like it involved dates or events of the competitions, or I say competition. Sounds like it may have involved evictions of house guests more than competitions or events themselves. But certainly something along those lines. Evictions, having to somehow place them in order in some way. Sounds like they were swinging from harnesses. You can see in this picture of Ashley, they were wearing kind of business suits as part of this setup. We did find out Frankie Grande was there hosting, but it also sounds like Dr. Will was there. I wasn't expecting that one on my bingo card, but Dr. Will was there. At one point, Morgan mentioned that how wild it was that Dr. Will turned out to be the mastermind. I didn't expect that either, but apparently Dr. Will is the mastermind, as they have found out based on these couple of quick comments made by Morgan. So Frankie hosting, Dr. Will there, controlling his lair and all that kind of stuff. Apparently, the competition itself, Vince was ahead at the start. I don't know if there were different segments to this round or not, because it almost sounds like they had to do one part, then read some directions, do another part, something along those lines. But apparently Vince had the lead, was doing pretty well. And then they got to a section where it sounds like he and Ashley, neither one properly read or understood the directions. At one point, Ashley finally went back, reread the directions, and almost immediately solved the puzzle and won this thing. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. Apparently, it had to do with not the days, but actually the order of evictions. And Vince didn't figure out. He was complaining to Morgan at one point, saying, I would have sat there the whole time. I was sitting there looking like an idiot, not doing anything. I didn't go back, read the directions, to sit there. I would have never solved it. And so feeling very down on himself when he did this. Apparently, so Ashley reread the directions and figured out. Apparently, Vince was so upset after the second round comp was over that Frankie even came up to Ashley and said, "Hey, he'll be okay. It's going to be all right. He'll be fine." And Vince later apologized to Ashley about the way he acted. I guess shouting to her, shouting out loud, not sure, but apologized for his actions after losing the competition. So yeah, Vince didn't take that well at all. All right, immediately after that, we had Morgan having to console Vince. Is what a surprise there. Consoling Vince a little bit while Ashley is celebrating in front of the cameras. She's saying, Team Ashley, Team Ashley. She's talking about winning the final part of the HOH competition. At that point, cutting Morgan, and then she feels like she can win the season from that point on against Vince. So she definitely has some plans in place. All right, we had that. Feeds came back just a little while after the competition, went down not much longer after that, down for several hours. Not sure what was going on, but feeds were down. Finally, they came back late afternoon, early evening. So we'll just kind of pick up the overnight feed recaps from that point on. All right. First of all, as a summary of everything that took place from this point on, basically it comes down to two things. Morgan and Vince spending time with Morgan, consoling Vince. It's okay. You do have a good social. It's all right, Vince. Nothing's guaranteed. A lot of that kind of stuff going on. Now, Vince did console Morgan a little bit, but primarily two things. Morgan consoling Vince while Ashley busy planting seeds against Vince as a way to get Morgan to take her to the final two if Morgan wins. And Ashley spending a lot of time practicing her final two speech. So, unfortunately, Vince took up a lot of Morgan's time that probably should have been better focused and dedicated to what she does over the next 36 hours or so. Ashley did it. Morgan was too busy doing a little babysitting. All right, we've got Vince still complaining that he lost because of the directions, saying that he was counting the days people were evicted instead of the order of eviction, and how he just completely choked, messed it up, that he couldn't even bother to read the directions properly. Woe is me, woe is me. Same old Vince. We do have Morgan telling Vince that, she's kind of at this point maybe 50-50 on who she'll take to final two if she wins the last part. So there's no guarantees at this point in time. She's 50-50 at this point. She wants to know if she doesn't take Vince to the final two, would Vince still talk to her if that was to happen? He says, yeah, I'll be very upset if you don't take me to the final two in that situation, but how can I not eventually talk to you? So yes, I'll talk to you, but yeah, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt a lot if you don't take me to the end, Morgan. Vince told her that he knows he can't beat her and that at this point he's just campaigning for second place and he is at peace getting a second place at this point in time. He's fighting to make sure he makes it to second place. So he is happy with that. He understands there's not a chance in the world that he's going to be able to beat her. Morgan is saying that, hey, you say that, Vince, but you've got a good social game. You've got 4 HOHs. You might be able to beat me at the end. I'm 50-50, and it's part of because I think there's a chance that you could beat me. And of course, he's disputing that, saying there's no way. But she's saying, no, I don't know, Vince. I think there is a possibility you could still beat me at this point. Vince is saying that Morgan is going to win against either him or Ashley. She basically is a lock at this point, as long as she can win this final HOH round. Vince is saying that when he said earlier, remember we had the house meeting and Ava said, hey, Vince said he's not taking Morgan to the end. He's taking Ashley. So Morgan, don't do for him what he wouldn't do for you at that whole house meeting with Ava. Vince is telling Morgan, saying, look, when I said I would take Ashley to the final two, it was just me hitting the panic button, just a moment of panic, not an intent, just a moment of panic kind of deal. And Morgan saying, yeah, I know, I understand, Vince. It's fine. It's fine. doesn't mean she isn't still thinking about it, and it isn't still coming into play with who she may take if she wins it. But he does more or less fess up that at one point he had said that. Morgan is worried. She's got more things to worry about. She's worried that she may not even have that choice. She's saying, look, Ashley could win this thing. And at that point, there's a good chance that she won't take me to the end. And Vince is disagreeing, saying, no, she said you deserve to win. So why wouldn't she take you to the end? Well, because she wants to win, Vince. And she has a much better chance against you than she does with Morgan. But Vince is poo pooing that idea. Morgan said, no, I think she could easily end up not taking me. So I've got to win this thing, the final round of this competition. She says that she's a little bit worried that if Ashley did cut Morgan and took Vince instead, that would be a huge jury resume type deal, and it could get her Ashley some additional votes for jury. So more reasons that she may do it. All right, we got Morgan talking to Ashley. She told Ashley, I didn't realize Ashley didn't know this already. Morgan told Ashley about Zach having that power way back, seems like forever ago, where he could have pulled himself off the block. He chose not to, and went home with $10,000, but went home instead of using that money and saving himself. So she has mentioned this to Ashley. All right, we've got all three of them reminiscing about the season, talking about the other house guest. Ashley and Vince are talking about the season itself. Let's see. Talking about the season. I missed something in here. They had dinner served. They had Italian brought in. Very excited about that. So they're all sitting around having Italian food. Morgan and Ashley, I think Vince was in the DR room. So he was not there. They went ahead and said, yeah, go ahead and start. So they actually went ahead and chowed down. Ashley in particular, very happy to have Italian food, saying they got everything that she wanted, having a blast with that. So anyway, they had that. Eventually Vince comes in. All three of them reminiscing about the season, talking about the other house guest. Ashley and Vince are talking about that they'll watch the season when they get out. Morgan is saying, yeah, I don't think I'm going to watch it when I get out. It's tough to watch it right after. A little bit later, maybe. But it's tough when you first get a lot of raw emotions, good and bad, on this thing. All right, we've got Morgan telling Vince that she fears that she can't beat either of them in the final two. Morgan was spiraling a little bit. She's just thinking about all the what ifs kind of situations. And there's nothing guaranteed in the game of Big Brother. So she's worried that she couldn't beat either one of them in the final two. I think that's wrong, but she's vocalizing that. She thinks winning out against Ashley is the only way to certainly guarantee that she makes it to the end. They're talking about how much Ashley knew about the other house guest, and how much everyone, this is after dinner and all that. They're talking by themselves. Ashley's not there anymore. But again, they spent a lot of time talking about the past season. Ashley had a lot of information, a lot of deets and teas and things to spill. And so they're saying, Ashley knew a lot about this season, a lot about the house guests and all that. She was a lot more in tune with everyone than when we suspected. And that's got them both a little bit worried. Morgan says she is scared to sit against Ashley because Morgan realizes she isn't very good at speeches, and she thinks Ashley will probably have a lot better speech prepared than she would. If you only knew, Morgan. We talk all the time about, should you lie about your profession, things like that? It's going to pay off for Ashley, because I think if they knew Ashley was an attorney, there is zero chance that she's getting taken to the end. Because they don't know that, Morgan may end up taking her instead of Vince. That could be a mistake here, Morgan. But she said, I'm not good at speeches. I'm just really worried about sitting next to Ashley, which suggests to me that she may feel a lot more comfortable about giving a speech against Vince's speech as opposed to Ashley's speech. All right, the backyard's open. They have a final. They thought they were done with HOH and backyards. Now they got the backyard open again, so they're excited about that. They're out there. Too much laundry. If I'm only in the house for another 36 hours, my dishwashing and my laundry duties are going to be very minimal at this point in time. But they brought everything out to do laundry and such. So the backyard is open. All right, we've got Ashley outside. Later, she's in the hot tub as well. She's saying by herself, saying to the camera, she thinks that she can win if she wins part 3 of this HOH and makes it to the jury, that she thinks she could get the jury votes at that point in time. But in the meanwhile, she's going to keep planting seeds with Morgan about Vince to ensure that Morgan takes her to the end if Morgan wins the final round of the HOH competition. So she's going to keep stirring things up a little bit and make sure Morgan realizes how bad it would be to take Vince to the end, and how great it would be to take Ashley to the end. So she's going to keep working on that. Meanwhile, Ashley's also spending a lot of time practicing her final 2 speech over and over again. She starts off practicing outside. Later, she gets in a hot tub. She's practicing it again. While Morgan and Vince are inside, she's going over it over and over and over again. I feel like I could give her speech at this point, just about. She says, I wish I had a tape recorder to help, but she didn't have that, so she's just doing it over and over again. Some of the points that she's got in her File 2 speech, and I think it's a pretty good one. She's saying, she's talking about Big Brother being a true social experiment, and that if Morgan was having to win competitions just to stay alive in the house, then what does that say about Morgan's social game? That maybe it wasn't that good, that she had to rely on competitions to survive, whereas Ashley did not. That Ashley's going to say that there have been very many Big Brother winners that didn't win a lot of competitions. Dr. Will didn't win any. Josh Martinez didn't win many. So she's going to use that as a reason to hey, don't think that you've got to just base this on who won most comp wins. She's saying that after Showergate, day 1, day 2, she learned that there's 3 kinds of people in the game of Big Brother who are always targets, and those are people that everyone likes, people that everyone hates, and people that win a lot of competitions. Whereas those who are just kind of in the middle tend to avoid the target list, and so that's what she chose to do in the way she played this game. She's going to talk about keeping the Judges Alliance alive as long as she did, as a way to provide protection for her. She's going to talk about the fact that she was not on the block for 7 or 8 weeks straight, so obviously something was going well with the way she worked. She is going to tell him that she is a lawyer, and that she's been acting like Elle Woods from Legally Blonde, that she's going to be that she acted like Elle Woods on purpose as part of her persona while she played the game. I think that's going to go over well with this jury when they hear that. She's going to say that she turned enemies into allies, while Vince turned allies into enemies. She's ready. You see the attorney coming out on her, and that's why I think if she does take Vince to the end, she wins this thing against Morgan. I said Morgan's going to beat Ashley, but it may depend on just how well this speech resonates with the with these house guests. That's the jury. It's going to be very interesting in that situation. All right, we do have Morgan comes out. They visit for a little bit. Eventually, Ashley goes inside, I think, to use a restroom. Morgan's wondering about what kind of final competition it could be. True, false, yes, no, something like that. Some kind of booth comp. It always is. So she's wondering what they could go over with it. She's talking about how many comps she has won to stay safe. So we just heard Ashley saying, hey, she had to win these comps in order to keep herself alive. Morgan sounds like she's planning to use the number of comp wins as a way to justify why she deserves a win. Ashley's already prepared for this and saying, yeah, no, that's not a good thing. That's a bad thing that she had to do that. So yeah, it's interesting hearing these two side-by-side comparisons. All right, Ashley is back a little bit later. The two ladies are talking in. They're talking about the HOH comps, the 2 rounds that each of them have won and how they went, how they won it, things like that. Just kind of not boasting, just feeling good. Both of them that they've each won a round. They're wondering what Ava is saying to the jurors right now. Ashley says she's feeling bad for Vince, but she's also talking about Vince lying so much. She talks about that a lot. And I know it's just to make Morgan feel a little less certain about anything that Vince has promised her about Lauren taking her versus whoever if he'd gotten to the end. Ashley's just continuing to push that Vince cannot be trusted with anything that he has said or done or anything else. Ashley is saying that she wishes that she won more comps. In other words, you're such a beast. You're comp beast, Morgan. There's no way I can compete with you at this point in time. If I just won a few more comps, but I didn't. So, gosh, I don't stand a chance against you as a result of that, Morgan. So a lot of this going on. Ashley is saying that Vince is going to pitch to Morgan that everyone hates him on jury. She says, "Look, I'm willing to put up $50,000 worth of prize money or whatever that he is going to say exactly that. I'm horrible. Everyone hates me and miserable. No one's going to vote for me, Morgan." She says that is going to be his pitch to you, Morgan. But she says, I think him even saying that and getting where he has with everyone hating him and doing as many devious things, that's going to get him votes. She says someone like Rachel's going to give her vote to Vince if Vince manages to make it to the end with how many people he burned and the way kind of he played this game. So she's warning Morgan about what could happen. All right, eventually we've got everyone outside playing pool, doing laundry, etc., just kind of hanging out for a little while. Vince at one point is talking to the cameras by himself. saying he embarrassed himself in both HOH rounds, but especially this last round, that he is pretty much locked in third place at this point because neither Morgan or Ashley will take him to the final two. Wrong. Ashley's going to take you. You may limp your way into second place in this season, Vince. How crazy is it going to be if Vince places above Morgan at the end of this thing? It could easily happen. But he's saying, yeah, I've just locked into third because I'm so horrible at the way I played these rounds. He's saying he's the biggest choke job in Big Brother history. Just not feeling good about it. So what do you do when someone's feeling down and horrible and depressed? Well, of course, you bring them alcohol, and that's what Big Brother has done. They provided a bunch of alcohol to the house guest, which they start drinking while they can. They're sitting around, they're talking about cars, about I think Morgan talks about being a tomboy when she's growing up, about going to college, fancy cars in college, very fancy cars. Certainly a lot fancier than I had in college, but they're talking about cars in college, who they want to meet after the show. Cody's name came up, a few other names. They're just general chit chat about post Big Brother season and just lifestyles and things like that. All right, Morgan is worried that America isn't going to like her because of the Vince relationship situation. She's saying, yeah, America is going to think that I want to date Vince, and they're probably not going to like me because of that. Yeah, he's got a girlfriend and all that. They're not going to like me because of that. So she's certainly worried about that. But she's saying, well, hopefully at least the live feeders know that all we did was talk game. There wasn't anything beyond talking game. So she's hoping that we live feeders understand that. And yeah, a lot of time spent in bed together, but you did have the pillow barrier most of the time. A few holding of hands, a few long hugs and all that. But hey, that's for other people to work out come Monday morning. All right, we've got Ashley and Vince talking. Ashley is saying that she's maybe leaning towards taking Vince to final two because she thinks it will be a bitter jury. And if that's the case, yeah, nothing gets you, Vince. But if they're bitter jury, yeah, that may help my cause a little bit here. So she does tell him that she's not sure what she's going to do, but maybe she does take him to the end. Now, if I'm Ashley, I'm not saying that. I think if I'm Ashley, I'm saying, no, I'm taking Morgan. That's all I'm going to do, Vince. One, if it gets back to Morgan, maybe it makes Morgan more inclined to take Ashley. Two, if Vince thinks that's the case, why is he going to bother preparing a final two speech, right? If he thinks both of them aren't going to take him, it may make him less prepared. But Ashley's saying, I may take you, Vince, just because the jury, I know they're going to hate you, so maybe I will. All right, Ashley finally heads to bed about 3:30 or so, calls it a night. She's actually going to get some sleep as she gets ready for the finals and all of that. If 3:30 in the morning is sleep time for these house guests this season, it is. So she's calling it an evening about 3:30 or so, goes in the shower, get ready for bed and all that. But meanwhile, we still have Vince and Morgan sitting out by and around and in the hot tub talking. Morgan's challenging Vince a little bit about some of the past things that happened during the season, specifically about Adrian. Remember, Adrian went home and she's saying, hey, I heard you were behind flipping the vote, trying to keep Adrian that in week 3. And Vince is saying, no, I didn't have anything to do with it. That wasn't me. And if I recall, that was the one Vince and Zach actually were planning to get out Dr. Will, to get out Will and keep Adrian. But then Ava came to him and said, no, Will's got the votes. It's not going to happen. And they flipped at the last minute. So I'm not really sure exactly what the beef is, but Vince is denying he had anything to do with it. Morgan, maybe she's convinced, maybe not, but they talk about that. Morgan is talking about this final round of the HOH. She's not wanting Ashley to win that final round. Vince is saying, well, no, I hope she doesn't win it either. I hope you win it, Morgan, and then take me to the final two, and all will be perfect in the world. You'll win, obviously. I'll get second place, but hey, that's perfect. And he spends a lot of time saying, look, I don't want anyone else to win this. You deserve it. You have fought harder than anyone else. You know, we've been together, working together forever. Of course, I want you to win it. And there's no illusion that it's going to be anyone but you winning it if you take me to the end. And just pumping her up as much as he can, that she has no chance against Vince at this point in time. So he's saying, yeah, I want you to win it and take me along, and we'll both be happy with the outcome. But Morgan is saying that she understands that, and there's a part of her that wants to do that, but she also feels like she can beat Ashley in the final two, but she's not so sure that she can beat Vince. Well, it's actually kind of flipped around in terms of the reality, but that's what she's thinking. Vince is disagreeing with that whole illusion that she could possibly not get that she could get beat by Vince. Vince is also saying that if Morgan takes Ashley instead of Vince to the end, it could. He said earlier that yes, I'll continue to talk to her. He says, but it might take some time before we can be friends after the show. I'm going to be so upset. I'm going to be so hurt. I'm just telling you, if you don't take me, yes, eventually we're going to talk, but it may take a while before I can be friends with you again. So he's kind of throwing out a little after the show threat here at her as well, or guilt factor. We'll just call it guilt factor. All right, we've got Morgan. Again, Morgan spiraling a little bit herself. And I don't know if this is just her trying to pump Vince up by downplaying her strength in the game, or she truly is just thinking about all the what ifs type situation. But she's talking about being called a snake in week number 1 and how hard it's been for her to play this game ever since. Vince is saying, hey, they called me a weasel since the very beginning, and yeah, I'm okay with it. And she's saying, well, they're different. A weasel versus a snake, different. Not so much, but whatever. I think she's much more focused on being called a snake than anyone else is at this point in time. And being a snake in the Big Brother house isn't always a bad thing anyway, but she is still focused on that, still talking about that. Vince is pitching now I thought this was interesting. Vince is pitching to Morgan why he should stay as final 2 for her if she wins this thing, using a couple of very interesting arguments. He says, first of all, if you don't take me to final 2, if you take Ashley instead, Keanu is going to be laughing at me so much, Morgan. He's just going to laugh. He's going to say, I told you so. If you cut me, how can I even face Keanu with him laughing in my face like that? It's going to be horrific. And then he gets a little dig in as well. He says, and also Morgan, hopefully you take me. I'd like to think that you would take me, that you have the kind of loyalty that you would take me. He says, I know Lauren would have taken me to final 2. Zing! Yeah, I'm not sure if that helps you or not to bring Lauren up in that point, but basically saying Lauren would have taken me. Are you saying that you're not as friend to me as Lauren is? Kind of paraphrasing at this point, but it's all built into that statement. Yeah, Lauren would have taken me, and now you're saying you're not. I think about that a little bit. So, yeah, Vince definitely doing a little emotional manipulating going on with both of those comments going on. So we got that going on. All right, and this is not friendly. This is them getting a little short tempered, snapping a little bit with each other as they kind of argue back and forth on this. Not full blown yelling. Well, there's yelling going on too, but not full blown animosity. But definitely them not seeming to be on best of terms right now. I just think they're very stressed out, no sleep going on. Now they got a little alcohol in, a lot of alcohol in there, a lot of alcohol they gave them last night. Why is it you only get a little alcohol in the beginning? Then when there's 3 or 4 people, suddenly you get massive amounts. Anyway, all of that combined, they're definitely kind of snapping at each other a little bit at this point. Morgan is getting upset with Vince. That Vince keeps saying that he has no social game. They argued about this forever. He's saying, I got no social game. I got nothing. And she's saying, don't say that. You do. And finally he says it. And she says, oh, there you go, America. He finally said what I've been saying all along. And he says, oh, I had great social game until I started burying people and this and it went on and on. But they're talking about that. Morgan is saying, hey, Ava, you keep saying you have no social game. She's saying, Ava came to me and said, you have a way with words that you could easily sway a jury. So yeah, just don't keep saying that, Vince. But he continues to keep saying that. Vince is talking about Morgan has continually told him that he has always had Lauren goggles on with everything. He's saying that's not the case. You say I've got Lauren goggles on. Every other person in his house is going to say I had Morgan goggles on. And he said, when it comes to even my HOHs, they're all going to say that you controlled that whole deal with Lauren. That's all you. So don't even be trying to say that my social game's so great or that I had 4 HOHs and all. No, they're all going to give you credit for everything that happened with it because they all think that I was doing whatever you wanted to do. In other words, still, you're going to beat me just with that argument alone. And she probably would. All right, Vince is saying that he has a bad feeling at this point in time that Morgan won't take him to final 2. And he says, look, Morgan, I just want you to be honest with me at this point. It's okay if you're telling me one way or the other. I just want you to be honest so I at least have a little bit of chance to prepare and be emotionally ready for whatever happens. Morgan says, I just don't know yet. I don't know what I'm going to do yet, Vince. So yeah, leaving him on edge a little bit, and I don't think Morgan does know. I think emotionally and loyalty and all of that, she wants to take him. I think from a strategic standpoint, I just think she feels like she got burned a little bit with what Ava revealed, Ashley continuing to plant the seeds about him lying. So I do think Morgan is very torn. So I do think she is being honest when she says, "I don't know, Vince, what I'm going to do." They finally decide to call it a night around 5 o'clock or so, 7 o'clock Houston time. They finally decided to call it a night, take a while to get ready for bed and all of that. Before they go to sleep, though, Morgan has her own little dig, right? Vince talking about, hey, Lauren would have taken me to final two. Morgan brings up an interesting point for Vince. She says, hey, Vince, do you think Kelsey's going to be at the finale night? And he says, remember, Kelsey's out, Vince's outside girlfriend. And she says, do you think Kelsey will come to the finale night? And he says, I hope so. I think so, but I'm not sure what she thinks of me right now. Morgan says, no, she'll be proud. Of course, she'll be proud of you, Vince. Look how far you've come. All your comp wins. She's going to be proud of you. And he says, I don't know. She may not be. And Morgan said, well, why would she not be? And he said, oh, I don't know, because I cried like every single day I was in the house because I had this big outburst after the competition today. All this stuff I did that I don't know. She may not be so proud of me. And there could be other things that she also may not be so proud about or so excited I was going to say to talk about. She may want to have a whole lot of discussions with Vince on all kinds of topics. But again, that's for them and not for us to be privy to. But she does say at the end, I hope Kelsey can make it to the end and is there to cheer you on, Vince. And he's in it. I hope so. We'll see. And with that, they finally stop talking, go to bed, call it a night. And there you have it, guys. So now we got Saturday. I don't think that much is going to happen. I think it's just a house guest packing, getting ready. Sundays are always, eviction days are always busy. I think Sundays, especially, or a finale night, there's a lot more packing to be done, reminiscing and all that. So we'll get a lot of that. I expect feeds will be down pretty much all day tomorrow, but I expect today we'll still have more conversations. Ashley planting seeds, practicing speeches, Vince whining and saying second place is fine with him, and Morgan just stressing out over everything. We'll see. But guys, have a fantastic Saturday. I'll be back tomorrow morning to give you the last and final recap, overnight recap of Big Brother season 27. And then it's on the finale night, and we'll see who walks out to the check and confetti. Guys, have a great one. SKD 143. Cheers, my friends. Bye.